starting with a game that we probably should have won a lot more than 2-0 against Bolivia. We got out of the game. How did you feel, Connor?
A little bit disappointed, but at the same time, with depending on results of the next two games, it could have definitely been fine. Like you go into the Bolivia game and you expect the team to win like 4-5-0, which is what Uruguay did. You would think that's the level that the US would be at. However, they won 2-0. You can complain a little bit, but at the end of the day, whether you win 2-0 or 4-0, there's not a ton of difference in the result, at least as of game one. So I didn't really have too many complaints after game one. Got the job done. Had our moments where we looked strong, had our moments where we looked a little lazy, but I felt good after game one. All we had to do was take 3 points against Panama and we were into the next round. So it was what we had talked about previously when we previewed the whole group stage. We said take your first 6 points and don't even sweat the Uruguay game. But I won't jump the card this week, so I won't say
Oh,
anything
good.
about Panama. I'll leave it at that.
Good. Yeah, listen, there were a lot of bright spots in that Bolivia game in terms of chance creation, in terms of getting the ball in dangerous areas, things that we haven't seen from this team in a while. And again, against Bolivia, you expect those things to happen. The problem was that none of them went in the goal except for two, and they were. I mean, the Pulisic goal was fantastic. Obviously, the set piece goal was brilliant. Balogun gets on the end of something that was a little. It wasn't super pretty, super clean, not like his Panama goal. Now I'm going to jump the gun there,
I hear
um,
you.
but it was enough, right? It did its job, and it gave us a 2-0 lead, and we were happy about it, right? So what was disappointing to me was the fact that we showed that we don't have the players off the bench to, how do I put this properly? Um,
Kill off a game.
yeah, or to step up to the level, like the drop off between players 1 to 11 and then player 13 is massive, right? And again, we talk about it, and again, I think Balogun has kind of started to break that mold a little bit. But anybody who puts on the number 9 shirt for the United States men's national team, and I use that positionally, not literally the number 9, but anybody who puts that on struggles, cannot find the back of the net. Doesn't matter how many goals you score in whatever league you're in, they cannot score. And Ricardo Pepi was prime example A of that, where I mean, how many sitters on the goal step did he have that just would not go in the goal? And that was kind of the bad omen, if you will. But I mean, again, just looking statistically, right? We dominated possession. We were in the attacking third most of the time. Lots of corners, lots of chance creation. Their goalkeeper did well, stood on his head. Again, should we have done better? Should we have done more? Absolutely. But like you mentioned, it was one of those things that you don't love it, but you take it and you move, right? 3 points. That's all we needed. It wasn't pretty, but we'll figure it out, right? Then, I mean, I don't want to jump. I don't know if we want to jump straight into the other game, but you know, that
Yeah,
Bolivia
jump
game.
jump right into the game.
I want to jump right into it. Well,
Yeah.
um, what I don't even know. I don't even know what to ask you about that game because it was such a nightmare all over the place. Just go ahead and give me thoughts, give me reactions, and
So I had really one major kind of thought process throughout the whole time after the game. And it was just the level of, or I guess I should say the lack of maturity in the team. Like we constantly hear about this is the youngest USMNT team at this tournament ever, or like this is the second youngest team ever. This guy's like one of the youngest ever to score at Copa. This guy's like one of the youngest to play at the World Cup. And quite frankly, it shows because good Lord, this team just feels so immature at times. Like the mentality of this team versus the mentality of like the 2014 US team that's in the World Cup is night and day. There's no, you could correct me if you think I'm wrong on this. There's no way that Tim Howard or Clint Dempsey lets someone lets someone like Tim Weah get away with something like that in a tournament like this. No shot. They would 100% hold him accountable. but I don't see anybody on this team, Greg included, that would hold him accountable for something like this. Not to the level that it should be, because that red card literally pretty much changed it quite possibly ruined the entire Copa America for the US. Like
Oh, yeah.
one play, like literally less than like a couple seconds, basically ruined the entire Copa America for the entire US.
Yeah.
And you could say what you want about Greg and his tactics after we went a man down, and you know I'm not gonna argue either way against Greg's tactical style, playing with 10 men for 70 plus minutes, but I just think the countless amount of dumb red cards I've seen this team get over the last couple of years is insane and just shows that there is not enough of a strong leadership presence in the team. And I think that's not just on the older players on the team. I think that's on Greg too. I think it's way too much in this team of like, oh, we're all best friends. Like, we're not gonna be tough on each other. And I feel like it's showing in the way that they carry themselves on the field. And I definitely want to hear what you think on their mentality. If you think I'm wrong, definitely tell me, because I'd rather hear that I'm wrong if you think I am.
Because I'm always right and you want to agree with me. I get that. No, I think you put it really well, and we're going to talk Greg specifically here at some point. But it's a great point, right? The mentality is disappointing. That's the term I'll use, right? Where everybody's bragging about, oh, look, we're in these top 5 leagues. We're all so good. Look at all the players we have playing in the UEFA Champions League and this stuff. And they're gonna walk around like, oh, this is who we are. And then some dude from the Panamanian League is bumping you off the ball and you're gonna punch him in the face. Like, I don't care what league you play in, you can't. And even if you, especially if you're playing in these top leagues, you can't drop to that level ever, right? You need to be above that level and utilize your skills and your ability to be better than that. And disappointing in that sense, absolutely. To speak to the game itself, we responded. We started off well, as expected. We were on the front foot. Then the red card happens, and now instantly we need to make adjustments. Right? I was curious to notice the 5 in the back. I think I mentioned it because Gio Reyna was sliding in as a fifth defender at that point. Yes, you're giving up certain areas of the field for others. Do I think we should have taken a central midfielder and done that? No, I don't think that was the right decision. I think it was a bit too conservative for the moment. They weren't pressing us that hard. They were still trying to play better than just wide ball, wide ball, wide ball. So we could have dominated the midfield a little bit more and then gotten into half and then adjusted from there, right? We go out, we score that goal on the counter. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant by Balogun, who is showing game by game a little bit more of what he can do. And I really, really enjoy it. But going back to your mentality point, 4 minutes later, we get beat in transition again because we got a bunch of midfielders who are just like, well, on my big fancy European team, somebody else is doing that work, so I don't have to do it. Dude runs by us. We've got 5 defenders. None of them want to step. Again, talking about giving up that midfield space. We could have put somebody in there to clog that a little bit better, right? And then just shift out wide if we have to. I think we were in a 4-4-1 at that point because the 2 wide players had tucked a bit deeper, or rather the 1 wide player because Weah was there. So Gio Reyna went a little bit wider and then tucked in, right? Which was fine. If we needed Gio to slide in and win the ball, he could win it centrally. If we needed him to go out wide and cover and prevent crosses, he could have done that too. Did we need him to go all the way back to a right back? I don't think so. But that was the decision that was made. And again, we'll talk about Greg and his decisions in a little bit. But the mentality to go up a goal, down a man, and not look at each other and say, we are seeing this out, and then 4 minutes later to concede is brutally, brutally bad.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least. I thought the 4-4-1, it was definitely, in my opinion, I don't think it would have lasted in the second half. I think the changes were necessary. The way they were getting so much space on out wide was great. Like, they were just whipping in crosses all day long. And I just don't think the guys in the back line could have done that, like just headed the ball away in one headers for an entire 45 plus in the second half on top of whatever they were doing in the first half. So I think bringing on and going five in the back I feel like it was necessary. But I do agree that I think just in general, we were a bit too passive. And I think they were very comfortable with the 1-1 and wanted to see that out. But I mean, even not 10, like you have the better players out there. I'm not going to say it down a man, they're the better team. But you have the better players out there. At least give them a chance. Like set the team up in some way, shape, or form where you could have the opportunity to counter. But I've seen people criticize Greg for the team's inability to counterattack. And I quite frankly can't disagree. And I think this game is an absolute showcase for that because I feel like, especially in the second half, I mean, outside of one chance that we may talk about in a bit, if we don't, I'll bring it up again.
Mhm.
I don't feel like we were very threatening, like outside of like one, maybe two moments. But otherwise, it was just like defend, defend, defend. And I get it. You're down to 10. Like that's going to be a bit part of the course. But I still feel like we were on the back foot just based on the way that we were playing tactically for majority of that time.
Mhm. And here's the deal. Like, I understand the thought process, right? You get out of there. At that point, you're up 1-0. You get out of there 1-0, you're in. You get out of there 1-1. Panama's got a point. You've got 4. You need 1 point against Uruguay and you're safe. Like, I get the mindset. I just think the mindset was applied a bit too early. And again, I've coached in situations like that. It's a difficult thing to do on the fly, right? You don't have these. We're talking about this 24 hours later. You don't have 24 hours to look back like, oh, maybe this is too early to do that, right? Or should he have gone and made a sub, right? You only get 5 subs, 3 windows. Should I use one of them right now? That's stuff that and everybody's like, oh, red cards happen all the time. You need to be prepared for that stuff. No, that's never a part of the game plan. You're never going into a game plan thinking, okay, if this player gets sent off, how are we going to adjust? That's never part of the game plan, ever. So I'm not saying that he couldn't have handled it better because I think he could have, but I also understand the difficulty of the situation. My problem with what he did was his second half changes where he stuck with that shape, which was fine. I was, if that was the shape we're going to go with, but the players he added in, I think brought the level down. So obviously there was a Matt Turner injury. You couldn't help that. And we won't even, I don't know how much you want to talk about the referee, but the referee was atrocious. However, we lost the goalkeeper because the referee allowed him to get cleaned out. We didn't lose a game because of the referee, but he played a part in it, right? You pulled out Tyler Adams for Johnny Cardoso, which, again, in the moment, I know you're trying to save him long term. I know you're focused. This is like a prep for the World Cup. I get it. But man, when you need somebody who's just going to run that midfield and win the ball back and do the dirty work that most people aren't going to do, that's the guy you want on the field. And to remove him again, I understand the whole like I gotta keep them fit for the long term type of thing, but you got to win this game, or you at least got to get a point out of this game. And then Cameron Carter-Vickers for Gio Reyna. Again, I didn't think Gio Reyna was going to be successful playing out wide in this right back role. He wasn't great marking in the middle either. He wasn't quick enough or mentally switched on enough as a defensive player, right? So I get the shift. But man, how many more times we need to see Cameron Carter-Vickers be garbage before we realize that he is not at the level?
Yeah, he's a little too fast and loose for my liking at times. Like
And this is a second. I mean, he did it against Colombia. He was terrible against Colombia. I mean, like I would have taken Aaron Long over Cameron Carter-Vickers at this point. Because my goodness, he gave the ball away every single time against Colombia. He nearly gave away a penalty. He's diving into challenges inside his own 18-yard box. He's falling asleep on easy marking situations in his own 6-yard box. Like, I get it. He plays in Scotland, one of the best teams in Scotland. I get it. He plays in the Champions League. I get it. But once, and this is stuff we've talked about the men's national team for a while. Your form has to translate to the group. If it doesn't, you don't fit. He doesn't fit anymore.
how dare you not talk about how Scotland is miles clear of MLS and therefore he deserves an instant spot ahead of half the guys on the team. Cameron Carter-Vickers hasn't stepped foot in the U.S. Or I shouldn't say it. He hasn't stepped foot on an MLS team. Therefore, he is miles clear of almost every person on the team.
Yeah, dude. I mean, listen, he's got, he plays one good team every year, twice. Twice. That's great. Like, how do you turn that down? No, dude. Like, and again, actually, and I gotta go back on a statement, right? Because I made the same comment at the beginning when we were previewing this whole thing, saying I think he's the number 3 guy, or even the number 2 guy next to Tim Ream, or Chris Richards, whoever it may be. I came out and said that. I was brutally wrong, because I remember earlier in his time here, he was a solid in the air defender. He was decent on the ball. He had good recovery speed. There were things that I liked about it. None of it has been shown in the last 2 appearances that he's made. And it's frustrating because we have 5 center backs in this camp. You could go with any of the other 2, and we're still going to the same well. And again, you're looking at the penalty that we, again, he didn't concede, but he got real close to it. And then a European-based Champions League player in the 90 or the 85th minute of a must-see out game. The ball is on the right flank, and he's looking up the field directing where the striker should be, while the guy runs in front of him and scores the goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just disappointing, because all I've heard for the last, I don't even know how long, this is a team full of players in the top leagues in Europe. Everybody in this team plays on a group that has pro rel. Everything about European soccer is better than MLS. And this is the quality that's bringing us. I'm not here saying that everybody needs to come back to MLS. I'm not saying that everybody in MLS is clear. But we need to stop putting all this heaping praise on players just because of the country they live in and play in. Because quite clearly, it hasn't translated to success. And whether that be because they're not meshing with the coach, whether that be because the coach is trying to get them hyped and they're looking at them saying, we play at Juventus and Milan and I don't even know. I can't even,
where our players play for.
I was trying to think of the
Monaco.
Netherlands team. Yeah, Monaco for Balogun and PSV. But I don't need to listen to the coach, right? Maybe they're all like, oh, I play on these big teams and Greg isn't as good as their managers. So I don't need to listen to him, right? I have that happen all the time with my group, where they come in and they think they know more than us, and then we get beat. I don't know what it is, but goodness me, we need to stop looking at them being the perfect poster child for what we're doing and start holding them accountable. Because I promise you, Greg's got his problems. And I promise you that Greg maybe could have handled Panama better. But I also promise you that Greg did not go out to Tim Weah and say, hey, punch that dude in the head, get sent off, and let's test ourselves and see how good we are against 11 men. And he didn't tell Cameron Carter-Vickers to go dive into every challenge when he put him on the field and forget to mark your man. Like, these are things that aren't coaching things. Greg's got 900 other problems. But if we don't focus on the people, and we've talked about this last episode, we don't focus on the people and the players on the field not doing the job that isn't tactic related, that is mentality related, that is just basic knowing your positional and role responsibility related. If they can't do the basics, no coach is going to fix them. We are not as good as people want us to believe we are. End of story.
I will hold off on my end from saying anything on the players until I can like properly see them with at least another coach. Like, if another coach came in and it's the same things, then yeah, I definitely would start to point the finger at the players. But I do genuinely think that the coach could have like a large enough impact on this that it could just be that he's not commanding the team well enough, or tactically running the team well enough. So,
No, and again, I'm not. Let me just clarify. I'm not absolving Greg of anything. Like, he hasn't been good enough. And again, if and when we don't get out of this group, he needs to go. Like, I'm not trying to defend him and say, oh, keep him around for World Cup. If and when we don't get out of this group, even if we magically get out of this group and it's based off of a whole bunch of luck, he's got to go. Like, he's not the guy for the job. And we can't waste the preparation where these guys are going to have 2 more years of experience under the belt at a World Cup where we won't be successful. However, and as we've spoken about before, there are more problems in this team than just the coach. This game, the Panama game, is not a full indictment on, oh, Greg needs, this is the game that makes me say Greg out, right? He was put in a tough position. He made changes that weren't that great. He's got 6 years of games that you can pick at, say, that's the game he didn't do well enough. This is a game that didn't do well enough. No big wins yet. No wins overseas. So many other things. I'm not saying the Panama game is what broke the straw that broke the camel's back. But there are more problems than just the coach. The players need to start holding themselves accountable. I mean, you mentioned it, right? Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey never let this happen. And I 100% agree with you. Who's the guy in there who's walking into that room and saying, this is on you guys. This is on us. We messed this up. Not the coach, not the referee, not us. We didn't do our job. Because I have a weird feeling that there's probably one person who's thinking that, but everybody else sitting there saying, oh man, the referee screwed us, or oh man, Greg doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm sitting here on the bench and I could be on there playing. It just feels not great right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would 100% agree. There's more to it than the coach, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we get a changing coach, and we'll see if things actually take as much of a shift as I'm sure plenty of people think it will.